Alright, let's begin. So the first thing you need before anything is you need a Paygate ID. Now initially they just give you this obviously for testing purposes, and they give you a key or a secret, and this is the value that they give, and you can test in rands, euros, and USDs. Okay, and then approved statuses are that obviously, and the transaction status is 1, result code is that, and then they give you like cards, bank cards that you can use for testing, and they tell you when the result code is that means it's declined. So these are all the cards that are approved. These are all the cards with insufficient funds, Visa, Master, everything that's declined, unprocessed, pending, and all that kind of stuff. So again, you can go back to this docs and read more into it, but we're only interested in this at this time. Also, the one thing I also forgot to tell you on the previous video was Paygate sends you, even on the test environment, it sends you an email. So it says your payment was successful and you paid $50. Okay, cool. And the code is already here. So the demo we're gonna build, we're not gonna put on Git. This is the real thing that works. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I have an application here, right? It's a simple MVC application using Entity Framework. It's not .NET Core. Gosh, I still need to learn that thing. It's a boilerplate with authentication, and the only thing I've done here was add a folder called services. Within services, I've added an iPayment interface. I've also added a class that implements that iPayment interface, and I've also added in a controller called PayController that just has an index method. Okay, so the first thing you need is you need your Paygate ID and your Paygate secret. So we're gonna use these because they are available for test. So I'm gonna grab this. I'm not gonna write the code. I'm gonna grab these and I'm gonna put them in my web config right here. So this is the key, Paygate ID. I mean, it's a key, you can name it however you want, but the value is that. The ID, the value is that, and the key is just secret. So this stuff is what's here basically. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to model and I'm gonna create a class, and I'm gonna call it transaction, and that's the only thing we want to store. We just want to store a table with transaction, and a transaction is gonna have a lot of details, but ultimately we wanna go back and verify that, hey, on this day this person made a transaction and this was the status for the transaction. So what we're going to store is all these values, not values, keys. We're going to store the Paygate ID, the pay request, the reference, how that transaction ended up, who made the transaction, what was the amount, and stuff. So I'm gonna grab those from here, and if I wrote the code, it would take quite a while. So key is gonna be auto-generated. Okay, so we're getting a transaction ID, the date of the transaction, the pay request, which we receive from Paygate when we make an initial request. You see it, the amount we're paying, it's an integer value, the reference, the transaction status, the result code, the description, and the customer's email, so we know who paid. Okay, and then we need the results code. So the results code is the results code so here are the results code. When the call was approved, you get that. When the card is expired, you get that. When it's insufficient fund, this is the value for it. So what I did here, I made an enum with all the, not all those values, but with the most crucial ones, and basically approval, card expired, and all that kind of stuff. That's all it is. Okay, cool. Let's put that out and let's save this. Now let's implement our interface. So here are the functions or methods that we want to implement in our interface. We have a function that encodes a URL, that encodes a URL to string. So basically it takes a dictionary and the values within that dictionary and keys, it encodes them and makes them in a string format. You'll see the method right now. And we sort of like have a reverse method that would take like a query string and then you want to turn that into a dictionary. We have a method to add a transaction, update a transaction, get a transaction using the pay request ID. Pay request ID is always unique. We have a method that uses Md5 hash. So basically we have to have a checksum for the values that we send to Paygate, so that they also send back to us a checksum. And if the checksum is different, that means the data has been mutated, which means something went wrong. But if the checksum is the same, then everything is good. So we also have this, which verifies the checksum basically. And we have a method here to get the authenticated user, in case, I mean, you don't really need this, but I just have it. Okay, now let's implement the interface. So let's go to iPayment, and this is the first thing we're going to grab, our DB context, and we're gonna a default constructor which initializes the DB context, and we are gonna have that first function to encode a dictionary to a URL query string, which is this. So what it does is it takes a dictionary, you have a string builder, it loops through the values within a dictionary, and then if you had let's just grab this URL. If you had a URL like this, let's say you had a URL like this, it will come in and it will say append and end, and then it adds in a key. So if the key was name, it adds in a name, and then it adds an equal to, and then it adds the value of this key. So maybe like Solomzi. So this is what it's doing basically, and it does this for all the keys within this dictionary. Awesome. And then it returns the results. So we have a reverse function to this, which is something that looks like this. This is basically the reverse of that. Just take it as that, okay? Okay, and then we need to add a transaction. So we taking in a request, you'll see the values that come with this, and then the pay request ID. So we try to add a transaction, and we have a pay request ID, we have a reference from here, we have an amount that we want to pay, and then we have the customer's address. Okay, it should be happy now. So what we're doing is, let's go to the transaction. So if you check all of these, none of them are required except for this one. That is because, like, initially when I make a request, I don't have all those values. The only values I have are just these, and these are the ones that I sent to Paygate, and then Paygate gives me more stuff based on what they give me back, based on the transaction status. Cool. So that's how we add a transaction, and we get a transaction using the pay request ID. So like I said, the pay request ID is always unique. Okay, so after making the payment and then we get extra values like the transaction status, the results code, the result description, and then the result code, So, and then we then update the transaction, okay, with all the values basically it needs, okay. And then the last methods that we have is hashing, Md5 hashing. So this will be that, and you can see what this is from. This is how you use C# to get an Md5 hash from a dictionary. And then the encryption key that we're using here is the Paygate ID, okay. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it works. And the last function that we're gonna need is to verify the hash. So verify the hash, you have a checksum, and then you try to sort of like reverse this or verify that whatever output you got from here is from what you have here. You just compare two checksums. That's what it is. Okay. So this part is done, and it's complaining about one more thing, which is this, and I'm gonna just comment it out for now. Okay. So the second part that we're gonna do is we're gonna implement these methods in our pay controller.